The following is a non-profit horror story narration. The story, narrated with full permission and cooperation, is written and owned by the author, who is credited in the subject line and in the description down below, along with a link to the original story. This video may contain some material such as violence, creepiness, jump scares, adult language, and suggested content which may not be suitable for some viewers. Please support the official release, and viewer discretion is advised.
Things had always worked according to plan for him. He had always enjoyed the meticulous planning of finding the right subject, testing their viability, and then eventually, their procurement. It was the steadfastness of making sure everything was precise in his quest for the perfect one that he had found her. She was quite a beauty to behold, elegant in her solemnness, mystery lacing each blink of the eye. She was intoxicating. But it wasn't all those things that had drawn him to her. No. It was the sad fact that no matter how many people she surrounded herself with, she always seemed to be alone. It didn't seem to matter whether or not she actively participated in whatever trivial tasks the others around her were engaging in. She always remained impassive, as though nothing ever affected her the way it did for everyone else. And that was intriguing to him. He had never met anyone quite like her before. Didn't even know someone so interesting could exist. He loved when his canvases showed emotion. It flavored the art piece. But working with someone so emotionless could possibly be the best work he ever did. That is, if he could get her to feel. It was a challenge he happily accepted. He had been working on his masterpiece for the last 3 days. Each slice of skin, each rusted piece of metal he drove under her nails, never produced even the subtlest of reactions. She would just lie there, chained to his special table, and smile. That was infuriating to him. Every other canvas cried out deliciously, their pleading wails the best high he had ever experienced. But this lonesome woman, with the vacant smile and curious eyes, just laid there and took her punishment in stride. At first he thought it was simply a testament to her strong will, but as the days and nights stretched out, he began to realize that it was something entirely different. He inwardly seethed. This disgusting creature thought she could outwit him? Him? Laughable. The torture, which was his favorite part of the dance, had escalated to the point of him removing actual body parts. It was something he found especially distasteful, but he needed her to react to the agony he was giving her. And he needed to be careful, no matter how much he wished to inflict pain on her. Killing her too soon would ruin the art, and all his hard work would be for nothing. He didn't particularly care for killing, however. The act of killing wasn't simply about taking a life to him. It was so much more than that. To him, it was a craft to be perfected. Each new wave of pain his subjects felt was another stroke of the paintbrush on his brilliant canvases. Each cry or whimper, another beautiful note in the aria he created. They all contributed to his work. They all contributed to his creativity. Except her. It was thoroughly frustrating, to say the least. Everyone had a breaking point, and the amount of disfigurement he had inflicted on her should have brought even the toughest man trained to withstand torture to their knees. Not her, though. She just kept on smiling. Long after he sliced her perfect lips off, she kept smiling, even after he sewn the ruined hole shut. This was insufferable. Who does she think she is to deny him of completing his life's passion? No, he thought, suddenly calming himself. He would not let her win. She was nothing, absolutely nothing, while he was a god. He knew what he had to do. He had been saving this particular treat for his next project. But she had proven to be contemptible enough to deserve such a pen stroke. He felt giddy, excitement flushing his skin. The sounds she would produce would provide him with hours and hours of beautiful limericks. Her body the most elegant sculpture he'd ever construct. Like a schoolboy on Christmas Day, he hurriedly unwrapped his gift himself. The chittering noise coming from the metal box sent flutters of exhilaration coursing through his body before settling in his heart. He knew that others like him felt a perverse pleasure in their killings, but he was more evolved than that. This wasn't about satisfying some grotesque sexual fantasy. That was beneath him. No, for him, it had always been about the art itself. The art of torture and murder. The gift continued to chitter annoyingly as he walked the box over to his work table. She continued to remain impassive as usual, that same slight smile still stretched across her ruined mouth. The beginnings of a snarl slowly escaped him before he was able to stifle it. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing his frustration. That would give her the illusion of power she didn't possess. But he did have to admit that it slightly unnerved him that he was forced to take such a drastic measure. Still, he smiled, the same mocking smile she gave him as he placed his present to the exposed flesh of her stomach. Her skin erupted in goosebumps as the cold metal met her warmth. It was the only physical reaction she had made since he began 3 days ago, and he was profoundly pleased at finally forcing reaction from her, however small it was. She still had that same infuriating look on her face, however, and he fought the urge to tear into it and destroy her demure features. As it was, the absence of her lips did nothing to distort her beauty. In truth, he thought to himself, it was actually enhanced what she already possessed. If she wasn't so sickly impetuous, he would have considered her his finest creation. The gift moved up and down slightly as it rested on her, the only sign that she hadn't passed before now. The chittering continued, more frantically as though they were aware of what was to come. Smiling down at his subject, he began to tightly strap the box down, using rope that was always within reach of his work table. He needed to make sure his little friends wouldn't escape their confines, and that she couldn't break free once they began. It was all so perfect, the very picture of artful genius. This needed to be savored, he thought. It deserves to be immortalized. He turned and picked up the old Polaroid camera he kept for the rare occasions he decided to keep an extra memento of his work. Despite the ire he felt for the contemptible woman, he had to give her credit. She inspired him. He turned back to her, circled the table snapping pictures as he went. The snapshots fell as he moved, littering the ground like macabre snowflakes. She continued to remain apathetic, her eyes following him through the circuit around the table. Soon, he thought, she would be lying in calm stillness. Soon she would be screaming, pleading for him to end her misery. He may actually give in to her request if she was creative enough in her begging. But he had a feeling it would still take agonizing long hours before she caved into the pain. After all, she made no sound at the first slice into her succulent skin. She didn't flinch as he flayed the skin from muscle on her arm, or when he went deeper and cut muscles from bone. She didn't cry when he poured a mixture of lemon juice and salt into the wound either. He was flabbergasted at her lack of response when he removed her leg. The damn stump still leaked drops of blood despite the tourniquet, much to his chagrin, and she still didn't react when he grafted the barbed wire covered pole onto her mutilated leg. Each vile act he committed on her went by, and she remained the same monotonous beauty she had been when he started. But no longer. He removed the flooring of the metal box, exposing her supple body onto the ravenous rats locked in the cage. He took a quick look at her face, hoping to see the dawning terror color her features, but was met once again with disappointment. No matter, he thought maliciously, she'll break. She'll break and give him the satisfaction of hearing her scream. He was exultant in his prospect, but there was still one more thing he would need to complete his masterpiece. He turned towards the back wall of his little workshop and grabbed a small butane torch. He laughed in spite of himself. This would be exquisite. He returned to his table, still finding her unbearably different. She showed no indication of her awareness of the situation and continued to give that slight cantankerous smile. His patience ran out in that instant. Her appalling arrogance. Did she not see the painstaking care he took in crafting his work? Did she not see the genius it takes to create something so opulent in his masterpieces? Bitch. Damn. Stupid. Pathetic bitch. He violently turned the torch on and held it close to the metal box. Instantly, once the quiet chittering taking place within it exploded into a cacophony of screeches and yelps. The rats, desperate to escape the scorching heat the torch produced, began to gnarl their way through her soft and palatable skin. The wet sound of flesh being consumed echoed through the workshop. He smiled. She started screaming in a moment. He just knew it. She made no sound, even as the rats feasted on her organs. She made no sound, even as her skin melted and bubbled around the red-hot metal. She made no sound. Even with the unbearable, brutal pain she was experiencing, her expression never changed. How? How is this possible? He screamed at her. His entire being filled the room with loathing he felt for her. What was it going to take to break her? This abominable monstrosity. What? Do you not find me terrifying? Do you think of me amateurish? I have killed women far better than you. Women worthy of my skill. Worthy of my love. He stopped, chest heaving. He wanted to slap her out of her apathy. He wanted her to feel his rage. But what he wanted most of all was to prove to her just how worthy he was of her fear. He moved the still burning torch from the box and aimed it at his own chest. He screamed as the flames licked his skin, turning it black. The smell of cooked flesh permeated the room as he continued in the act of his self-immolation. When he had cooked the most of his own flesh, he moved on to the burning hot knife at his side. Its handle had partially melted into his skin, and he cried out in agony as large chunks of himself tore off as he removed it. I am an artist! He screamed a final time before jabbing the knife deep into his throat. Blood oozed from the wound, thick and sticky. His skin sizzled as the liquid coated his ruined body. He fell, pain vibrating through every atom he possessed. He laid on the cold ground, dying. The last thing he could think of was that of his masterpiece's face, and how she cried. tests he died.